Welcome to another episode of Boardroom Conversations. In this episode, we delve into the journey of a remarkable individual who has carved an innovative way for himself in the world of finance, strategy, and business management. Joining us today is Stuart Williams, the CEO of Rolux Global, a prominent South African business figure with a wealth of experience and expertise. Throughout his career, Stuart has held various pivotal roles in various organizations, showcasing his strategic acumen and leadership prowess. From serving his articles at PwC to his tenure at Genesis Capital Partners, where he was involved with private equity deals and orchestrated business turnarounds, Stuart has left an indelible mark wherever he goes. Stuart's journey is a testament to resilience, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence in every endeavor. Join us today as we uncover the insights and wisdom gleaned from Stuart Williams' remarkable career. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this boardroom conversation. I'm your host, Justin Watkins. Stuart, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the podcast today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've personally been inspired by your journey. And I think one quote that really stands out in my mind that really encapsulates what Rolux is doing, not only in South Africa, but also abroad, is this quote. It says, "Taking no risks will be your biggest risk. You have to risk failure to succeed. You have to risk heartbreak to love. You have to risk criticism for the applause. You have to risk the ordinary to achieve the extraordinary. If you live avoiding risk, you're risking missing out on life." And that quote, based on your own personal journey, perhaps just walk us through your own personal journey building up to actually joining and starting Rolux and being their CEO, and where you currently are just in a personal capacity.
Well, so firstly, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and it's so nice to be here. Talking about this type of thing, it makes you feel and remember the things that have brought you to where you are. And we don't often look back on the things that we've done and go, okay, well, we achieved something, or we are achieving something. I find that we're very self-critical, and so I look back on my career, and I was at Rhodes. I studied accounting, had the best time of my life. I went off to PwC, where I was in the metals and mining division, and I was involved with a whole range of audits, but it really was not my cup of tea, if I'm honest. I ended up leaving there and joining a small private equity company called Genesis Capital Partners, and I was actually more involved in, I was sent into a whole range of companies to help with fixing them. And through that process, at a very young age, I was exposed to all sorts of difficult situations, the types of situations you actually never want to find yourself in, like having to potentially retrench people, or to raise capital, or to or dealing with hard conversations and situations and banks and you name it. And I found it really difficult, but it was an amazing learning experience for me. I couldn't have asked for a better grounding than that, and I had exposure to some fantastic mentors. I left there in 2019 to go and travel with my wife, and whilst we were traveling, my family had come across this business that we actually thought was just a shop in Stratham Park called Loxton's. It turns out that there was actually a lot more behind the shop, including a factory in Babalegi and two brands, one called Rolux and one called Professional. So it wasn't like we rocked up and, we were like, oh, we're going to buy this fantastic thing. We didn't actually know that it was there. And so we ended up buying it in June 2019. The story behind that was an interesting one too. So my journey's been one of corporate into semi-corporate and now into family business. And that's how I've got into where we are.
So let's explore this Rolex journey. Obviously, there's a lot of brand equity within Rolex itself. And I think a lot of people know what Rolex is, being a lawnmower, but I think there's a lot more fingers to that hand that a lot of people don't know about. So maybe just walk us through Rolex and how the business started, and then we can take it from there.
Absolutely. So Rolex is pretty much a household name that's been through it's got a colorful history. There was a phenomenal advert in the 70s or 80s, with the jingle where people sing the Rolux Magnum, and that propelled the brand. And it was one of those iconic brands in South Africa. And I didn't know that, if I'm honest, when we bought the company. I didn't actually know how iconic it was. But now when I drive my vehicle around and people see it and I see them singing in the streets, it's unbelievable. If I'm wearing my Rolex shirt or my hat and I walk through Johannesburg Country Club or somewhere for like a golf game and guys start singing the Rolex Magnum jingle, you start realizing the true value of what was created. The story is that the company was started in the 40s or 50s. We're not quite sure. We don't have the archives, unfortunately. It was an unbelievable brand in the 70s and 80s, and then when in the 90s and 2000s went through a couple of purchases and sales, backwards and forwards. It eventually went into liquidation twice, revived, liquidation again, and then a family called the Loxton's family, who owned a business called Professional, fantastic lawnmower business, bought the Rolex brand in 2015. And they coupled the two together, and you would have thought it made a lot of sense. The Rolex brand, the Professional brand, both lawnmower businesses, and they put them both together and they lumped them into one factory, and it turned out to be, in retrospect, probably a mistake, because they're actually totally different businesses. Unfortunately, the business wasn't doing great in 2017, 2018, and then in 2018, the guy who was running the business, a guy called Gordon Loxton, passed away, and the business started to crater. And we came in just before the company went into liquidation again. We knew at that point in time what we were buying because we had a look, but we didn't understand the history of the brand. And only over time have we come to appreciate it and its global, the implication of this brand globally. It's an amazing brand that so many South Africans know, and because they've traveled the world and left South Africa, we've got a lot of spillover to the rest of the world. And when we bought the company in June 2019, and from there onwards, we've tried to do things our way, and we've learned a lot of hard lessons. Let's just put it that way.
So, in South Africa, from 2019, how's the business grown? How's it progressed? What products do you guys actually sell to the public market?
Yes. So we're busy selling. So the two businesses at that time, Rolex Professional, and we had this shop in Australian Park, Loxton's. We didn't know what to do with any of them, if I'm honest. I mean, we literally, it's classic entrepreneurship, and I come from a super entrepreneurial family. My dad's never really worked for anyone. He worked for one guy, and he ended up getting fired, and he decided, well, I'm just not suited for this corporate world. So he went and worked on his own and has done for the last 50 years. And I grew up in that environment, and I'm saying this because when we came to this business, it was no different. We looked at it and we went, okay, is there an opportunity here? Do we know? Yes, there is. Do we know exactly what that opportunity is? No, we don't, but we are sure that with the skill sets we bring to the table, we'll be able to work it out. When we bought it, we knew very, very quickly that the factory in Babalegi that we were busy running was a good one, but it was never going to meet the scale that we needed to grow. We eventually, 9 months after buying the company, COVID arrived, and we had to shut the factory for 6 weeks. And we didn't know what we were going to do, because ultimately we didn't realize that there was going to be massive demand afterwards. And so just to get back to your question around products, at that point in time, we actually cut our product range right down. We were doing all sorts of rotary lawnmowers, all sorts of cylinder lawnmowers, electric, petrol. We were doing brush cutters, chainsaws. There was a mix of product that that the company was trying to sell, that we just said, we don't have the working capital to actually keep this thing going. So let's trim the range right down. Let's go and let's make it simpler for ourselves. That was the right decision at that point in time. But we still at that point didn't know what we had. I mean, you don't know until you're really in the thick of things what you've got in front of you. And because there was so much to do and our list was so long, we never actually got to 3/4 of the things that we wanted to do, especially then when COVID hit and the steel smelters shut down. We were busy producing everything in South Africa, not importing a thing. There was no steel available. So when people were in COVID, they were sitting at home using their lawnmower because they had nothing else to do. All of a sudden, when COVID restrictions started lifting, people were going, well, I needed a new lawnmower because I've now used mine and it's a load of rubbish. So I better go buy it. So there was this massive boom for lawnmowers at that point in time. But we were totally unprepared. Those companies that were importing product and had a lot of product on water already were able to get stock. We were producing locally. We didn't have any steel. We couldn't get steel. So the customers who were demanding so much stock from us, we couldn't provide. We actually couldn't supply. And so what could have been a really good time for us was actually not good at all. And in terms of our customer base, it was not great. Reputationally, it's hard when you have to say, no, we don't have stock. So, that was a really difficult time for us. We got COVID in 2021, and I was put into hospital with COVID. At the same time, we were busy moving our factory from Babalegi back to Johannesburg. We'd received an order from Australia, and the Australian order that we delivered had massive quality problems. And so when I say this was tumultuous, it's a huge under exaggeration. It was really scary.
So COVID presented a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah.
It was almost like we don't have enough stock, we don't have enough steel, but we have massive orders coming in. How did you transform your business model to actually meet that demand and actually provide lawnmowers to the demand that was actually there?
We couldn't. We actually couldn't. So at that point in time, it was going into winter in South Africa. So it was April, May, June. We're a very seasonal business in South Africa, worldwide. We don't sell a lot of lawnmowers in winter. Obviously in summer, when it's hot and rainy, you sell more. So going into winter, we hadn't prepared to hold the stock. Obviously, you plan to have less stock going into winter. Now we had this boom during winter, all of a sudden, couldn't do anything about it. We could not take advantage of that situation. But at the same time, we got an order from, I mentioned a bit earlier, but we got an order from an Australian distributor. At this point in time, we didn't even know that we had an international business potentially. We did not know that our machines could compete on the world stage. Honestly, did not know. So, there's all these people out there that think that it comes with all the skill and this know-how and stuff. Honestly, luck plays the biggest part in life, in my view. And we were so lucky that we got this order from this customer in Australia, who to this day is a good friend of ours, and I've been over to meet them. But at that point in time, we were like, well, we've got an order from Australia. We've got to meet that demand. We then to answer your question, we couldn't do anything about the situation. We were just waiting on stock, on steel. We just couldn't do anything about it. But what we did do was say, well, maybe South Africa is not the only place we should be producing. We've actually got to look elsewhere in the world, because we're very dependent on one steel provider in this country, and as well as importers of steel. But imported steel is not the same quality as the steel that Mittal can produce. And so we decided at that point in time to start looking elsewhere. But then we couldn't travel anywhere to go and see these factories. So we were just between a rock and a hard place. But the real turning point came when those 3 containers that we were delivering to Australia, which we were so proud about, we built them in our factory in Babalegi, sent them off to Australia. They arrived, and I'll never forget it. It was the 14th of March, 2021. My boys were 4 days old. I was down there just quickly for a day business meeting, and I got a phone call from my Australian customer to say, we've got to reject a lot of the stock because it's just the quality is not good enough. And my heart sank. I phoned my dad, and my dad was in tears. We just didn't know what to do. We knew at that point that that there was a market for our product in the international market, but we just were devastated that the quality of the stuff that we had sent was not up to their standard.
And what caused that quality breakdown?
So when we bought the company, we inherited a whole bunch of molds and tools and stuff, and we didn't inherit a massive amount of know-how. Some of the people who were working there were brand new, of course. A lot of people left when they thought the company was going to go into liquidation. So we had a shortage of skilled guys at the factory, as well as the tools and molds that we had inherited were really old. But we didn't have the capital to be able to buy new tools and molds, so we just carried on going. Now, when demand got bigger and bigger, it puts more pressure on your tools and molds, and so the wear and tear, if you press something out with a press that's slightly worn, it's going to give you a warped product. We didn't know that until our stuff in Australia arrived. And the local market had just gotten used to, in all honesty, the average stuff that we were putting out there. We didn't know this. We didn't know it until our Australian customer got that stock. And it was a very, very scary time for us, because I said to my team, guys, I think we've got to consider shutting this factory down, outsourcing a lot of our manufacturing to other suppliers who specialize in manufacturing. Maybe we're not the best manufacturer in the world, which is actually, it was exactly the right decision. But it was also scary because within the space of 3 months, we shut down our factory and outsourced everything to third-party suppliers. We received, because of our response to our customer in Australia, we managed to, he placed an order for about 8 times more stock. And we, through that process, we're improving the products whilst outsourcing, whilst moving factory from Babalegi, rehoming 40 people to move from Babalegi back to Stratham Park. And at that same time is when we got COVID and we couldn't go to the factory. And it was just, I mean, this is the thing. I think people think that like it's all easy, and it's not easy. Like, I'm not the only person who's had a hard time in business over the last 5 years, but it's all about just survival, and it's about the never give up attitude. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for me working in a family business, I would have given up, I think. It's the fact that my family was there and that they relied on us, and that, you know, we needed to do this for them, and that they were heavily involved too. And my dad takes, you know, all of this stuff exceptionally personally. Every customer complaint that he hears or sees is like a personal, we see it as our personal issue to solve. And so when we were hearing negative stuff in Australia, it was just devastating. But anyway, we managed to, we did all of that. My little brother really jumped in. We managed to sell off a lot of the stuff at the factory. We moved back to Johannesburg. We outsourced everything, and we met the demand of the Australian customers and improved the quality. And I look back on that and I'm like, wow, that was a really testing time for us as a business and us as a family. And at that point in time, I thought we were done. I thought we were done. But the way I think we handled the Australian issues gave us a great reputation and friendship with our Australian partner. And that taught us where we were in the world. Where was our place in the world? It's actually on customer service. It's on customer service. Of course, you've got to have fantastic quality product, but customer service is the key. And when you have an issue, not to run away from that issue, it's to solve that customer's problem. Whether it's a distributor buying 100 million rands worth of goods, or one person whose lawnmower blade is broken, whatever it may be, treating those individuals with respect, and as if they're the most important person in the world at that point in time. And that's kind of our ethos in our business.
Sure. So the Australia business kind of did two things for you in a sense. It almost gave you a shock in terms of understanding that we need to improve our quality of the nature in terms of our distribution networks, the nature of our product. But then on the other side, it also gave you a huge sweep because you guys couldn't actually meet that demand. Yeah. You didn't have the resources to actually meet that demand at all.
Exactly. It was a double-edged sword. It was so cool to see that we had a global product. And it was not in the Rolux product, believe it or not. It was in the professional product. So the professional range of stuff that we sell is right at the top end of the consumer market. It's very expensive. I mean, the cylinder mowers that we cut, that you kind of would use on like a bowling green, some people love to use that on their lawns because it gives a perfect lawn. That's a 20 to 50,000 rand purchase. You know, that's a big investment. We didn't know that's a very small market in this country. The other product that we sell on the rotary, as a rotary mower is called the Professional High Vac, which it turns out is actually the most hardy rotary machine that you can get, just about. I've never seen a machine that's like that. We sell those into the garden services in South Africa, and we sell those also into the top end of the consumer market. When they've gotten tired of buying 4 or 5 machines over the course of 4 or 5 years, they eventually invest in one of these products and it lasts forever. And our ethos is basically built for life. We want to build products where people have it for life. But not only the products, the relationship with us is also built for life. So the community engagement is really important. The product we sent to Australia is built for life. It was just the quality we put out was really bad. So the double-edged sword was, yes, fantastic. We've got an order from Australia. Wow, we got Aussie dollars like we can earn. Geez. Then on the other side, it was, we're actually not good enough to meet their expectations and requirements. it gave us the ability to go but look at our products and say, well, how do we reposition this? What do we do? Where's the big opportunity? I still didn't understand at that point in time that we actually had a market outside of Australia. We'd got an order then from Oman, of all places, in the middle of the desert. We got an order from Qatar. But again, the quality that we sent was not good enough. It was still not right up there. And the Australian thing has actually been the catalyst for everything that's happened since. So we got the purchase orders from Australia and one other place. And because the economy started dropping in Australia, we had to hold back on some of those orders. So we built the stock. The Australian economy elsewhere, not just Australia, we were now sitting on stock. And this was in about April last year, so a year ago. And we were facing, because of that, we obviously had a cash crisis. We were sitting on all sorts of stock, very specialized, not easy to sell in South Africa because it's so expensive. And my brother and I were sitting there, honestly, like borderline about to give up. And I've never said this before, but I put in my resignation to my family because I didn't know how to get us out of this mess. And so I was very close to leaving, and my family, my dad said, don't, let's work through this. Our other shareholder, Jonathan de Villiers, sorry, I get a little bit emotional, but they said, don't, just let's carry on. And my brothers and my wife stood behind me, and they said, well, we as a team, we came together and we said, well, geez, what are we going to do, guys? We've got to make a plan here. What are we going to do with all the stock? And I said to them, guys, I was in America the year before, and I'd seen that our product was good compared to what was there. And I said, I'm sure that with the quality of the product we're putting out now and the stuff we've got here and our team and our ability to execute, we can get it into America if we send it on a ship now in time for the end of the American summer. And it was absolutely critical for us to do it because we knew we had a better chance of selling that stock in America than we did here in winter. We knew that our product was good, but that was it. Like, we had no choice now. We had to do something, otherwise our business was dead. It was gone. And we made that decision in May last year. And I said to the guys, we've got to get the stock out of the doors by the end of May for it to get into America in July so that it's sold before the end of their summer, which is the end of August. And I did know that our product was good, and I did know we had a place in the US economy. But how do you start? Like, how do you do that? But because we were so desperate, we just had to make a plan. So the Australian story has resulted in a monumental shift in our business and our approach and our focus. And it was a very scary time, but actually the best thing that's ever happened to us.
So now you've seen an opportunity in the US, and you're still manufacturing everything locally, and you've got these fantastic lawnmowers in terms of quality and product and range. So how does one go from South Africa and take this massive leap into the US market, which is a massive market that's super cutthroat?
Yeah.
How does one do that?
So we were very lucky that the particular products that we had a lot of are very specialized, niched products. So the ability to find those guys or ladies online is not hard. There's a group in South Africa, a Facebook group called the Lawn Care Nuts Group. Very, very focused group of people who just love their lawn. And we get along really well with the guys who started that group, and a couple of the other South African influencers online. So there's a guy called Bryce McDonald and another guy called Merrick Van Us, and we're really, really good friends with them. Genuine friends, not just for business. We're actually really friendly with them, and we've come to love our lawn because of people like them. But those people are the world over. So we said, well, if there's a SA Lawn Care Nuts group, maybe there's an American one, and there was. So we went and found that group. There's another group out there called the Bermuda Lawn Dominators. Bermuda is a type of lawn, and they're the dominators of the Bermuda category, right? And then there's another group called the Atlanta Lawn Dominators, and there's another group. There are 4 or 5 groups. Real mowers use real mowers, and so we know that those people are super focused on their lawn. And so if we could just get some traction on those groups, we knew that our product, in fact, we didn't know. We guessed that our product would visibly be attractive enough that it would generate some interest. And that's how we started the marketing campaign. We literally went onto groups, no budget. We couldn't afford anything. All we had was stock. That's all we had. And so we said, well, our only investment is basically getting the stock across to America. So it's 170,000 Rand to get a container across to America. We said, let's invest that money. What's our potential upside? Well, a whole container of sales. What would happen if we sold that whole container? Well, it would change the course of our whole business. But then we would also be in America. So it would finance us for a portion of time. But not only that, we've then got an entry point into the States, and then there's no going back. We were literally forced into making that decision. I always wanted to go into the States, but we had no choice at this point in time. It's a crazy thing. So to answer your question about how did we do it, we said, well, okay, first and foremost, got to get the product into the States. All right, get it into a container. Problem was, the engines that we were using, Briggs & Stratton, which is an American company, I'd assumed because it's an American engine that it would be allowed in America, and it actually wasn't. So I got onto the phone with a very senior guy at Briggs & Stratton who's become a friend of ours through the business, and I reached out to him when I was in America the year before, and he helped me to source some engines in the States. And I said to my team, take off all of the engines from the chassis, we're just going to send chassis over. And Randy in the States from Briggs & Stratton said, no problem, Stu, I'll help you. I mean, it's a tiny little account for them, but he helped me to get engines. And I said to him, Randy, I honestly don't know, once we've shipped these chassis and you've sent the engines, where are we actually going to receive these to put together to send to customers? And Randy said, don't worry, I'll make a phone call. And this is where I love the American people. The Americans just are super hospitable and friendly, and they were so willing to help us as a tiny little business in the whole scheme of things. Randy went out of his way to assist us. Found us a company based in Statesboro, which is south of Georgia, and he said, I'm friendly with the president of that company, and I've chatted to him, and he's happy to help you guys. And I was like, I can't believe how amazing this is. So we shipped off those chassis. So we'd taken off the engines, we shipped off the chassis. We got engines sent. Now the products are on water for the next 6 weeks. Now we've got to actually go and sell these products. So we quickly put together a Shopify website. We had applied for an American trademark for Rolux brand, very important. And we'd also applied for a company, an LLC. That was a whole story on its own, because you've then got to get an employee identification number, an EIN, which allows you to open a bank account. So in the meantime, we were doing our payment. We'd set up the Shopify site, and on, I think it was the 1st of July, we went live, and we were all sitting at Old Parks. I'll never forget it. And I think it was at 4 o'clock we pressed go live, and within a minute we'd had a sale. We couldn't believe it. We actually got a sale. And then all of a sudden our teams are like, how many are we going to sell, guys? And some people were like 30. My brother was like 50. I said 1. I was wrong. I think we sold 3. But to hear that when Shopify have a sale, it goes cha-ching. I mean, every time that happens, you just shake like, wow, this is actually real now. And we started selling over the course of the next 5 weeks until we got the product into the States. And by the time the products got into the States, they were all sold out. And then we were faced with the next challenge, which was, okay, we've sold out our product, but the money is now sitting in PayPal's account, and PayPal weren't prepared to release it until we delivered the products. But we needed the cash to be able to do all the things we needed to do, including flying to the States to help put these machines together. It was just, it was like problem after problem after problem, and we were just problem solving every single day. When we got to the States, the machines had got in, the engines had got in. We were now waiting for 2 parts to come in from China, flown in from a supply in China that you can only get from China. And we couldn't put any of the machines together. Myself and my brother were there because we didn't have those 2 parts, and now we were waiting. Fortunately, the guy who was helping us in Statesboro, John, he helped us to get that stuff through customs and into the factory where we were able to start assembling. I mean, just everything happened like the hardest way, and yet it still worked. And I learned a very valuable lesson through this whole process. There were points in time where you just want to quit and give up and stop. And my brother, thank goodness for him, my older brother, was like, we're going to do this. And if anyone can do it, we can do it. And I was like, it's times like that where I thank the good Lord that I'm actually in business with my family, because I think I would have quit. And when we were in America, it was really tough because it was It was, close to 40 degrees, humidity like Durban. It was so hot all day and night. We were in this factory that was really hot, and we were missing home. And I had 2 little kids, and my brother also had 2 little kids. We were sharing a room. Eventually, we made a call to fly my younger brother over to come and help us. So the 3 of us were then sharing a room in Statesboro. But through this whole process, we managed to get the machines out, and then the next issue hit us, which was UPS delivered them in basically balls of steel. And that became a potential PR nightmare, because now this went onto Facebook. We resolved that by contacting all of those customers. There were 14 of them, and we said, don't worry, even if you haven't received your machine, we're sending you a new one. So you're going to end up with 2 machines potentially. We don't care if your other one works. We're sending you a new machine. So we did. We sent them brand new machines. But it was just blow after body blow. It was just really tough for us to do all this. Plus the excitement of it all. It was just really mad. In any case, we managed to solve that problem. And then what we realized was that actually our strength again came back to customer service. Forget about the product. The product has to be good. It has to be for you to compete on the global stage. But your customer service is what sets you apart. And we focus every single minute of our day on customer service. That's it. That's what we spend our time on. Anyone can produce a lawnmower. Anyone. Anyone could take our product, send it to China or India, wherever they want, and copy our lawnmower. But we believe that nobody can copy our customer service in this sector. And we tried to make that the focal point in the States, not disingenuously, but genuinely. We are so customer obsessed that we don't want to see people upset, and that's just our nature, and that comes down from our old man.
So in terms of location in the US, was there a particular reason why you chose particular locations to open there?
Okay, so the reason we chose Georgia was because, first of all, there's a direct flight from Johannesburg, into Atlanta. That was the primary reason. The second reason was because the southern states of America, so Georgia, Florida, Alabama, across Oklahoma, Texas, and California, are super wealthy, but they're also the areas with the longer summers. So we knew that the market for our products was going to be in the southern states. And for us to be in Georgia is close to Savannah Port, which is one of the major routes coming in from South Africa. So we said, well, let's send it into Savannah. It's a direct trip into Savannah. Okay, Atlanta's close. Savannah and Atlanta's 5 hours from each other. Perfect. We can find somewhere in the middle, and hopefully it works out well. That was literally the plan. It was direct flights into Atlanta, and we're going to get the stock indirectly because it's the fastest way in. That was it. Decision made. So then we were in Statesboro putting these machines together, and fortunately the guy who had helped us, who is now our US CEO, we met and we hit things off really well. We became really close, and I saw the work ethic that this guy had, and I was like, we need to set up shop wherever John is. And he came on board as our CEO in October last year. Massive leap of faith for him. He had a very stable job, and I think he saw something exciting in what we were doing, something thrilling, a little bit crazy, and he came on board, and thank goodness he did, because he's been a game changer for us. But where he lives is just north of Atlanta, and so we've opened up a premises. We opened up a premises in Kennesaw, which is about 40 minutes from Atlanta Airport, and it works out to be just the perfect location for us.
What an inspiring journey!
It's a crazy story.
What a roller coaster ride!
Yeah, and it continues to be, because now we're building machines in South Africa. We're also looking at building machines overseas. We can't meet the demand from South Africa, unfortunately, with the unstable electricity and steel supply. Also, unfortunately, the quality of our suppliers is good now, but they can't meet the quantity requirement that we have. So we have to look elsewhere. Then you've got the problem of getting stock from Johannesburg to Durban. So Transnet's a major issue for us at the moment. Durban Port's busy because of all the ships traveling around, thanks to the Suez Canal being closed pretty much to trade. So everyone's traveling around the southern tip of Africa. That clogs up the ports, so it delays things. So now we're dealing with delays out of South Africa, delays in the Panama Canal because there's a water shortage, so they can't get as many ships through in a day. So there's all these challenges that are popping up. But if we keep on saying to ourselves, but guys, we've survived until now. We're going to continue to survive. And what are we going to do? I don't know. We're going to make a plan. It's still very, very risky. What we're doing is very risky. Opening up a premises in America is not cheap. Putting in a team there is not cheap. Building a brand there is not cheap. But for our particular product and product range and the type of product, we have to have a presence. It also for us has built a lot of credibility, and people are seeing we're investing. We do our assembly in Kennesaw in Georgia, and we're able to employ people. And next month we've got a ribbon cutting ceremony that we're going to go to open up our facility there. And we've got a team. And I mean, last night a container arrived at like 3:00 yesterday afternoon, US time, Eastern time, and my team stayed there the whole night working to get machines out for customers. And the work ethic of these guys and the gees that they bring, that word gees is the best. And we're translating that to the Americans because they say, well, what's this word gees? I'm like, spirit. It's like the spirit of, we just want to create cool things for people and make sure they get it on time. And my team there just does an exceptional job at that.
And I think you've been primed by the environment that we have in South Africa. Yeah. I think South Africa creates a particular type of incubator from a businessman point of view, to create people that are immensely resilient to tough times.
Yeah. I mean, you guys would have seen this before as well. You can choose to approach things in certain ways. You can either be super positive and optimistic and you leverage the best parts of what you've got for the best outcome for yourself, or you can choose to be negative and South Africa has so much going for it in terms of the skill base we've got here. I mean, we can do things better, I feel, than most people can on earth. And it is because we're primed for it. Like, we deal with a lot of stuff every day and stuff people don't even think about. Whether it's the lights being out at a stop street. Okay, well, I've got to make a new plan to, not at a stop street, at a robot. I've got to make a plan to go another route. That's small bits of entrepreneurship that everyone thinks about all the time. They just don't realize that they're actually thinking that way. You're thinking of ways to do things because we are forced to. An example, we now are delayed on some of our shipments into the States. What did we do? We found a company that's a startup that's able to, that specializes in South Africa, America trade, and we're flying over some machines at a pretty heavy price compared to our value, but to keep those customers happy, we have to do it. Our competition, I feel, wouldn't necessarily do that. To go to that extreme to keep a customer happy, to forfeit your profits to make sure that they're happy. And I feel like we as South Africans do that intuitively. We're just there to problem solve for people. And if we can leverage that as a nation, that's where I think we can succeed. And that's the opportunity that South Africa has.
So in terms of a young person looking to start a business in South Africa, and obviously starting it locally and running it locally is fantastic, and there's a place for that. And there's obviously a place for taking a product globally, like what you guys have done. What advice would you give to a young South African looking to start a business? He's perhaps in corporate, she's in corporate. What advice would you give to that kind of person?
I would certainly say, don't limit your horizons to just South Africa. I would say think about your offering on a global scale. Why? Because we've got a pretty small market share, but we've got the skill sets and back end, and we've got all the infrastructure to go and sell to the world, whatever it may be, whether it's a digital product or a physical product. I would say do not limit yourself to the boundaries of South Africa. Think big, and think about the good things that this country has to offer. Don't think about the bad things. If you think about the bad things, you're going to run away. But South Africa has, the best lawyers, the best accountants, the best phone service providers, the best banking systems, a very sophisticated tax system. We've got very highly skilled professionals that can help you on your journey. And there's people out there that are doing cool stuff in the world from South Africa. take heart from those people and don't be scared of what is to come, because you're going to have difficulties. You will have difficulties, but just don't give up. That's all. Just carry on and look for the good in this country.
And I think based on, you've dropped so many nuggets of wisdom this whole time, but just to bring things to a close, what would be your favorite business story, business quote that you almost look to as a constant example or reference in your own business journey that almost inspires you? Because I personally have just been inspired by what you've been saying now. So you've probably become my favorite business story now. But just for you personally, what really stands out for you?
So we have a saying in our business called that we say, do it right now. Do it right now. And that was inspired by my cousin's husband, a guy called Wayne Witherspoon, who was one of the founders of Metier Cement, who they eventually sold off to Sapaku. He said to us, guys, if you're going to do something, just do it right and do it right now. Then you're never going to be in trouble. Just don't procrastinate. Just do it right and right now. No one will ever be unhappy. And we say that to our staff, and we say that to ourselves. Guys, if we're going to do it, let's just do it right, and let's just do it now. Easy as that. So that's kind of our motto. The story, the stories, I've got so many that inspire me. The current one is, have you heard of Versify Solar?
No.
So Versify are in the same game as Go Solar and the like. But Versify started, and they're starting to do nicely now because of the need for solar. But they were run by two guys who, from like 2015, 2016, Versify was basically an Uber for like plumbers and builders and stuff for your home. So you'd go on Versify and you'd try find a builder or plumber for your home. But in 2020, when COVID hit, that business died. Totally died. And I remember running with Gus the one day, and he was like, we have to do something. We're going to keep positive. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to keep positive. And in 2021, I think it was, they were like, we're going to totally change to solar. That's all we're going to do. Versify is going to become Versify Solar, and we're going to do solar. And that's when South Africa just went straight into like level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8 load shedding. And stage 5, 6, and 7, whatever, load shedding. And they started to absolutely pump. And I look at that and I'm like, those guys, two very, very smart, well-educated guys, and they obviously took on a couple of partners afterwards, we can give up during COVID, we can write this thing off, or we can take what we've got and we can just focus on one niche. And they did. And they're doing so well now. They employ 40, 50 people now. So in the space of 2.5, 3 years, they've totally transformed their business. And I'm just like, those guys could have gone off and got jobs. They could have flown to the UK. They could have moved off, but they didn't. They just changed. And it's just, to me, such an inspiring story. The other inspiring story is a company called ChefWorks, which is now a massive global business. But it started off as a small chef clothing brand out of Selby in Johannesburg. And that was 40 or 50 years ago. The Gross family, who's still involved and operated to this day, they saw an opportunity. They were selling chef's clothing. I mean, you would think nothing special. They took that business to America, and now it is literally a global company, still being run by the same family that was running it before. But they saw an opportunity to take what they were making, which is excellent quality product with great service and hugely ambitious people, to the world market. And as a result, they've built an incredible business. And I just am so inspired by those stories where I'm like, something as simple as a chef's jacket, they've built a major business out of something that somebody would have thought was just mundane.
When I listen to the stories that inspire you, I think they inspire you because I think you see yourself in them in a strange way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I don't think we're nearly as good as those guys, the Versify guys or the ChefWorks guys. I think we have such limitations, us as a family, us as a business. Limitations. I mean, maybe I'm being hard on myself, but I see those guys and I'm just like, wow, that is so inspiring. It makes me feel good, like it's doable, And I'm not trying to put us down or make us sound worse than we are. It's just, I I think I like to be a little bit more humble, and my family likes to be more humble, to think I don't see myself in them. I just wish we could be a fraction of what they are, you know?
And I think you are. Looking from the outside, watching your guys' story through a platform like LinkedIn and seeing how the business has grown and how you've told a story of what it looks like to fail constantly over and over and over again and take the leap of faith to kind of go to the US market. And I think your story is very powerful, and I think you're telling that story more than you think. And it's immensely inspiring for a young person like myself. Understanding, I always hear the negativity all around me. And as a young person, when I see these little glimmers of hope that are taking place all the time, it inspires me to continue what I'm doing in my space in which I operate. So I think it's very inspirational and it's very profound. And looking at businesses like that, it shows the pedigree of person that South Africa is producing. That we're producing a particular type of person that can take products that are of a high quality and we can take them global and we can change the world.
It is true. And I'm so inspired by those, like the Falskun guys, you know, to take even just the concept of doing what they did. And then all of a sudden they were on the feet of the Olympic team. And then, you know, they've got celebrity investors and you'd think that it's made up, you know, but it's a phenomenal story of like just hard work, determination, guts, and I love seeing and hearing those types of things. And it's true for any company that's trying to just do something a little bit different. And it doesn't have to be in America or Australia or the UK, or it can just be South Africa. You can just have a great business in South Africa. We don't have to export to the world for it to be a phenomenal business. And so those, you know, even what you guys are doing, like you guys are 30 odd years into your business, and I just am truly inspired by what you guys do, you know, and building great things for people. It's like you're creating stuff, you know. I find it hugely inspirational.
Well, Stuart, I really, really enjoy the opportunity to speak to you, and I've been immensely inspired over this period of time. Just sharing how much almost failure and the trauma through the failure, it's just incredibly inspiring that you guys haven't given up, and you're almost starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel now in a strange way. I think now that you guys are in the US market, it's definitely providing a platform for you now to be like, okay guys, we can do this.
Yes.
So you first have South Africa. South Africa primed you just as a country to deal with problems. Then you had Australia. It was like, okay guys, now we
just got to step up.
Yeah, now we need to step up our game, and now we need to go to the biggest market in the world.
Yes.
And you guys are doing it, and it's cool to stop and acknowledge that you guys are doing it. We're doing it. Like, you guys are in the US, you have premises there, you're doing it. It's a real thing. And I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity to come on the podcast today. Yeah. Really, it's been incredible.
It's so nice to come on and talk about this type of thing, because you forget the journey you've been on unless you talk through it. And you could see, like, I get a little bit emotional about our journey because it's been tough. It's been really tough, but at the same time, it's fun, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stuart. I really, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.